Hello and welcome to office hours number 678.
All right.
Boy.
Hey, Blaine.
Hey, Rhett. It's good to see you. It's so good to see you. We got a big week coming up here. I mean, and we're near the end of it right now, but it's Saturday. Those of you that are tuning in, and David's going to be talking more about this, but we've got some big news coming up on Saturday. There's a big launch party, birthday bash launch, and the Napoleon Hill piece is coming together quite nicely. So I'm very excited about that. So you're going to want to join us at, let me see here. It's at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And David will have all the information for you probably in his Friday morning coaching session, Friday morning live, all that kind of stuff. So how you been, buddy?
I've been good. You know what I'm most excited about for Saturday is I rarely get to spend 2 days or 2 hours with you in a week. And I get to spend another hour with you, Blaine. I'm excited about that.
I am too. I really am. It's kind of like this whole thing this project is just an amazing, this opportunity is really just an amazing potential life changer for a lot of people. So folks are going to want to actually tune in on this. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. David's at CES right now in Vegas, I believe. So he will not be joining us today unless something has happened and he just happens to pop in. But Rhett and I've got quite a show for you today. So I think without further ado, we can just bring our first guest, Sergio Alvarez.
Hey, Blaine, I was going to ask you real quick. I was wondering, Gigi or Mac, could you guys share the link for Saturday? I wonder if we could share that link. I wonder if we could share that link at some point here during the show, because I think that if people want to tune in on Saturday, that would be give them.
I was looking for it on the crib notes I had, and I couldn't find the link, so I was kind of talking around it. Yeah, we'll get that link up before the end of the show today. So, Sergio, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Sergio is the founder and chief executive officer at AI Media Group. And AI Media is an award-winning, I'm going to just read this directly here, an award-winning digital marketing powered by attribution. Now, this was an interesting one, powered by attribution and proprietary software. But the attribution piece got my attention when I was looking at this. So, you're a pioneer in performance marketing and digital attribution. And that's, again, that attribution piece. What do you mean by digital attribution, and how, as a consumer of media services, would I want to know about this?
Well, it's both on the consumer side, but on the business side, right? Because we're reaching both. And if you think about attribution, which is the big buzzword, it's really being able to figure out how you get somebody from inception to conversion. And that's been a missing component for years. When I first started the company, the idea that I had back in 2008 was, how do you really consolidate into a singular dashboard all the touch points, or as I call them, breadcrumbs, that led to somebody activating or converting? People spend so much money on social, video, mobile content, programmatic, on and on and on digitally, but they miss the picture of saying that end state, which typically happens on Google, was caused by somebody scrolling on Instagram, obviously nowadays, going on TikTok, or what they did on Meta or Facebook, but ultimately they end up converting. So the idea of attribution is stitching all those together and then mathematically being able to figure out where to give the proper credit. Because as we know, there are certain facets, let's say social media, that's not made to convert, but it's bringing you down funnel. It's not just the end state.
Yeah. So who is this? Oh, sorry if I interrupted you.
No, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, Rhett, you're up.
So who does this? What I want to kind of dig into a little bit is who the service is for. Is it for small, medium enterprises? Is it for big business? Is it for the one-off coach like myself? Like, how does it work? Who's it for?
I kind of sound self-serving to say everyone, but the reality is, if you're spending money digitally, right? And you will have more than one channel, right? You're not just on search, let's say. And even then, it works incredibly well for it. But it's for anyone who's spending money currently on multiple channels. So let's say they're on search, they have social, they're doing programmatic, even just those three. How do you define what performance means? Because as I said, the end state of any query online is typically the .com or the name, right? When somebody converts. But a long-winded way of saying, to answer that question, it's if you're spending money online and you're not able to see the journey of that consumer to conversion, that's really who it's for. It works for small businesses, obviously for large businesses, and it's all mathematics. So the more that's in market, the better it's going to attribute and fine-tune where you should be moving your money to.
Okay, so it's the journey to conversion that you're really highlighting here, and the touch points.
Correct. And that's the word I use all the time, is the touch point. So think about, I'm just picking any industry, think about a cruise line. You don't end up, and I'm just using a name, you don't end up converting on Royal Caribbean because you just thought of them. You may, but there are a lot of other factors behind it. Beyond that, you have to think about that long journey, right? You have to think about dates. You may be thinking about a flight. I'm based in New York. Let's say I want to go down to and take something from Florida. You have to think about who it is that you're going with, scheduling. There's a lot of things that happen before you convert on the word Royal Caribbean. And along the way, while you're doing your research, you're getting hit with remarketing, with ads. You see it on social media. All of those are triggers to get that person to ultimately convert under the name. The question that I always pose to people and what we solve for is, why is it that somebody ultimately ended up converting on your name and typically on Google? If you can answer that mathematically, now you know how to reinvest those dollars. And you can look at a campaign, let's say on social media, where you said, I'm not getting anyone to book directly from social, but we can see that the impact that social had on somebody converting, that's where the money needs to be redistributed to.
Does this help you? I mean, what is if you use this and you use it effectively, how does that increase your conversion rate? Is it, do you have a number that typically happens after somebody uses the service?
Sure. So, with our organization in particular, we see average conversions better than what they had, ROAS or ROIs of about 30%. And there's no magic behind that. It goes back to math. Because if you think about, let's say, whether it's $100,000 in media spend or $1 million, it's kind of irrelevant. It's how do you figure out the media mix? Because what I continue to see in market is that people say, I have $1 million and I'm going to spend 50% of it on Google, X% on Meta, X% on programmatic and video, and so on and so forth. But what they're looking at is the end state. In other words, social media delivered X amount of bookies, and for that reason, I'm going to allocate X amount of dollars. What's being missed is that, as I said before, that social media component that did not immediately convert to a booking led to that same user, maybe a month later, converting on the brand. And for that reason, it was not Google that led to that conversion. That's the end state. It was actually the social media efforts, the videos behind it, that got that mid-funnel to get to that end conversion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now that's fascinating, because I wouldn't know that unless I had some way of actually looking under the hood. Yeah, which is what you're providing.
Correct. It's being able to literally see the entire journey of an individual user without violating PII. And there's this notion of privacy. There's no such thing in privacy when it goes online.
Yeah,
Privacy, you're accepting all the cookies. So yes, obviously there's privacy concerns that we all are constrained upon, and we don't take lightly, and we stay within those parameters. But at the end of the day, you are giving your data, that breadcrumb trail, to all the different providers that you're on. And if you think about your journey, think about the last thing that you bought online. If it wasn't an impulse buy, like something that's just on Instagram for $19.99, and it was a little bit more of a journey, like a cruise, like a trip, or anything else like that, there were a lot of consumption points that you had before that took place. All of them will impact towards the end goal, which is converting on that particular brand.
Perfect. Yeah. Where can people find out more about what you and AI Media are up to?
Just, we have a great name, AI Media Group, and there's a lot of AI, artificial intelligence behind it. Yeah. But by simply just typing in, obviously, AI Media Group and looking at what it is that we offer and what we do, it gives them a good idea of the services we provide.
Perfect. Sergio, we're going to have you back on some other shows. We've got a couple of different ones that we'd love to have you on. So, yeah, David's not here today. I know he wants to have an opportunity to, throw some trial balloons up in the air and see what you do with them and that kind of stuff as well. So we'll get you back.
That'd be great. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much, guys.
Bye-bye. Good stuff.
Yeah,
dogs
look, I mean,
in the background and nice things going on here today.
Yeah, fascinating to see. Like you said, I like your analogy of like looking under the hood and actually seeing that journey, right? Because all of that is such a mystery. How do you get that customer to hear? It just sort of, it's way above my brain power to understand.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I wanted to go into more depth with Sergio on. We're running a couple of things right now for a mastermind program that we're going to be launching here at the end of February. And we're doing the ad spend, all kinds of stuff. We're doing all kinds of different channels, but I'm not sure what's causing conversion. Just, like, to his point, it ends up at a point, but what one triggered, and we're doing A/B testing and we're doing all that stuff. But this platform has got a very interesting promise to it.
Yeah, it does.
Just to kind of track that. So that's really good. So, and I'm just got a note from Gigi here. We get to talk a little bit more because our second guest isn't here. This is a good thing. Okay.
Well, hey, let's talk about your mastermind then.
Yeah. Hey, this is the 5th year I'm doing it.
Okay.
And it's, Leadership Mindset Mastermind. We've got, it's a year-long mastermind program, and we're capping it at about 15 people this time. I've got a couple of folks in it that actually will be attending for the 5th year in a row. They keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. They keep coming back. And so rather than just having them sit in as students this year, I'm charging them with actually running a couple of different cohorts. So we're going to actually, in the year, we're going to be breaking this thing into different cohorts, and they're going to change over quarterly. We'll change the mix on it. But we're working it with a way that not only do they meet with me on Monday, and we go into a deep dive on a weekly lesson, and I actually use the Leadership Mindset Weekly as part of the curriculum for this thing. But we're also weaving into it Napoleon Hill's work, which I've been doing anyway. So, it's a really robust program. It's based on work I've done for 40 years. And like I said, it runs for a full year. And the intent there is you don't learn something by a one and done sort of a thing. You actually, and you know this as well as I do, right?
Yeah.
You have to actually be involved in something on a long-term basis in order to facilitate a change in mindset. And that's what the whole thing is about, changing the mindset so that you're actually more effective.
Who's like the ideal candidate to come into the mastermind?
Typically a solopreneur, entrepreneur, somebody that has got an idea that, or more of an understanding that who I am is who my organization ends up being. So they recognize that personal growth is a real important part of what they're doing. And if they're not growing, their organization's not growing. So, they typically have got a sophisticated understanding of what it means to run an organization. The organizations are mid-sized companies to usually around 7 figures, high 6, 7 figures and up. So that kind of stuff is what we're looking at with this guy.
And you've got to have a favorite success story from one of those groups.
Oh yeah, I do. And I won't name names here, but one of the people that came in was somebody that had retired, and she wanted, and she legitimately, she reached an age and success in her life where it's kind of, okay, one and done. About a year and a half in, it's still like, I am bored out of my mind. And she needed to repurpose, and this is the idea that she looked at. It's highly successful in her previous life, but she wanted to do something a little bit different with the knowledge that she had and the information she had. So, and she's one of the people that are actually has been in for 4 years running now. and she's said, "Okay, I'm going to restart my career in a different way." Now she's still in the same market sector, it's finance,
Right.
but she's doing it in a unique way and targeting very specifically women,
Okay.
and financial literacy for women. And she's doing an incredible job with it, an absolutely phenomenal job with it. And she's taken the lessons that we've worked with in the mindset or in the mastermind, and she's applied. What I like about this mindset or this mastermind is it's immediately applicable week by week. There's pieces in it that we can actually bring to bear immediately on your situations. So
Wow.
yeah, and she's a raving fanatic for me. I love
Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. I think we've got Adam up next, don't we?
Okay, I don't see him. Oh, there he is. Adam is here. Okay, good. There he is. Hey, Adam, I can't hear you. You got your microphone muted.
Oh, he took off.
Come back.
Never had a guest run away, Blaine. Hey, Adam.
Hey, buddy. Get you to come off mute. Okay.
All right. There he is.
Adam Witty's the founder and CEO of Forbes Books. And, there's a couple of other things in there as well, but, AdvantageMedia being one of them. But I'm very interested, and Rhett and I both, I'm going to make an assumption here and assign this to you as well, Rhett, but the Forbes book brand. And you may not remember this, Adam, but I met you at a Conscious Capitalism conference. Oh, gosh, it must have been 5-6 years ago. Yeah, something like that. And I was very intrigued with what you were doing. And I sat down, I believe it was you that we had a brief interview on a breakout session. But let's talk about Forbes Books, because this is, obviously Forbes is a very, familiar brand. Anybody that has, got any kind of business experience at all. What was the catalyst that caused you to move into creating this whole thing?
Yeah, so I started AdvantageMedia in 2005, 20 years ago. And the business was helping CEOs and entrepreneurs write and publish books to build their authority and their thought leadership. And fast forward 10 years, it's about 2015, and I'm sitting next to a senior executive of Forbes at a business event. And I said, "You guys are the biggest business magazine in the world. Why don't you publish business books?" And she looked at me and said, "Adam, it's hard enough to make money selling magazines. We don't want to figure out how to sell books too." And I said, "But our authors are CEOs and entrepreneurs, and they're using their book as a platform to amplify their message. And it's a little bit different than the typical author that's just selling books at Barnes and Noble and sitting back collecting a royalty check." And I had them below, and I guess the rest is history. They felt that our business model combined with their brand and their marketing power, it was a 1 + 1 = 10 proposition. And of course, today, it's now really the preeminent business publishing brand, in the world.
Yeah.
Well, go Gamecocks. I don't see that.
That was
I'm a Citadel. I went to the Citadel and I went to the Carolinas. So and I grew up down in Charleston. So I appreciate. And Adam, you and I have spoken before because we were at one point with one of our books we're going to publish with you guys. But and I also appreciate you from before. I'm a Forbes columnist, so I appreciate you very much. But publishing and writing a book is hard, and I know a lot of people out here that watch this show are successful entrepreneurs and they want to tell a story. Talk about that a little bit and how I know you mentioned it. That was the sort of mission that you set off on. What's how do you guys help them through that process and to get that story out to the world? Because it's a grueling process. I know, Blaine, you know it. I've got a new book coming out this year as well, and it's a tough thing. But talk about how you guys make that easier.
Yeah, well, it is climbing Mount Everest. Writing a book. It's hard enough to write an email, let alone 50,000 words. And what we realized is that for most CEOs, most entrepreneurs, they don't really like to write. They're probably not good writers themselves, but most importantly, they don't have the time to sit down and write a book. And our big aha, Rhett, many years ago was that entrepreneurs, they're passionate, they love what they do, and they could talk about it for days. But if you ask them to sit down and start writing about it, it's a blank screen. And so we pioneered something that at the time we called Talk Your Book, which today most people would say, well, that's ghostwriting. That's having a professional writing partner work with you to ghostwrite your book. But that's really it. It's this simple idea that entrepreneurs are passionate about very easily. And so instead of asking you to write, let's just get you to talk. We'll interview you. We'll record all those interviews, and then we'll turn that into the actual book. And that's how we have made the process of writing a book far easier than it is for most people that try to do it themselves.
Boy, I wish I'd had you when I wrote my first book. I mean, that one took me about 4 years to get from concept to something that I could actually hold in my hand. And to your point, Rhett, I mean, it was blood, sweat, and tears. It was kind of like I'd walk by my desk and I'd see, it's kind of, oh God, I've got to sit down and do this again. And it took me 4 years to get it out. But I learned a couple of things along the way. When David and I did Compassionate Capitalism, one of the ways that we actually did that was we would talk it through, and I would record, our conversations, and then I'd get it transcribed, and then we had an editor that just kind of cleaned stuff up after us, which was a lot of cleanup, I might add. But now traditional publishing, has gone through a major disruptive transformation. I mean, you look at Simon Schuster, Random House. I mean, the big houses, they aren't what they used to be. And particularly as an author, having one of these big houses actually do the promotional work that they used to do, that doesn't fly anymore. Right. I mean, if you don't have a big list, they probably, you're not going to get signed. In many cases. How is what you're doing with Forbes Book different than what the traditional media would have, or the traditional houses would have done back then, in terms of being able to get the book in front of people?
Yeah, the word, Blaine, that every publisher will use is platform. They want to know, what is your platform? Meaning, how many people can you sell your book to that we can make money from?
Right.
And it doesn't matter what your book's about. It doesn't matter if the book is good or not. It's all about, does this author have a platform? And if the answer is no, then we're not interested. And so at Forbes Books, our view is that and you can sell a lot of books. Number one, you should own the rights to your book. Why would you give those rights to somebody else? And number two, you should make most of the money. And so Forbes Books is an independent publisher, which means we really take the best of both worlds of traditional publishing, which does have some real benefits, and self-publishing, which also has lots of benefits. Right. So like self-publishing, in independent publishing, you own the rights, you control the process, you make most of the money. But like traditional publishing at Forbes Books, we have phenomenal writers and editors and designers. We have full distribution into bookstores and airports, and we have an incredible book promotions team that knows how to master the Amazon algorithm and master book reviews and get, really generate publicity around a book. And so I'm not here to say that traditional publishing is bad, because for the right person, it definitely can make sense. But for most entrepreneurs and business leaders that have their own platform and kind of control the message with that platform, I just don't think traditional publishing offers a whole lot of benefit to them.
Yeah. Great. Rhett, final words, final question. You're going to have to come off mute.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I want you to, I've been dying to ask this question, and to someone who could actually answer it. I'd take a crystal ball for a second, because publishing is really, really changing, as is everything in business. What do you see in the next 5 years? Like, how is this business going to change? I mean, is it really the physical book? Is it visual? Is it what's the change that's going to happen, you think?
Yes. So if I look into my crystal ball, I'll tell you the trends that I see and what I think that means. The first thing is AI is going to have a profound impact on the creation of content in general. That's going to flow through to the book publishing industry. And I think the big thing is that as consumers and as authors, we really have to stand up for authentic content that is created by true artists, true humans, versus algorithms, right? AI is an easy button that a lot of people that want to cut corners would love to push to say, I'm an author, I've written this book, but you really haven't. And so at Advantage and at Forbes Books, AI is a tool that can help you make your book better, but it should not be a tool that creates your book. And I think that is going to play a big part in the future of publishing, is what the industry views as acceptable and not acceptable when it comes to AI. The second thing that I will say is I think that while physical books will always have to play, we will see what they would call trade book sales or bookstore book sales will continue to just slowly regress. And that's just because, number one, you've got ebooks, you've got audiobooks, but candidly, people just less books. I don't know what it says for us as a society and as a species. That's not what we're here to discuss right now. But that is going to have an impact. It probably means that Amazon's only going to be bigger and more powerful, not less. Amazon has built the best mousetrap, but having only one player in an industry doesn't benefit everybody except for that one big player, right? So we as authors and publishers, we want a diverse industry with lots of places where people can buy and sell books. But the one thing, Rhett, that I don't think will change is the power of a book in establishing the credentials of a person as a thought leader, as an authority, and as the go-to expert on a topic. At the end of the day, we all have bookshelves in our homes, and we display those books to brag to our friends. And the most valuable real estate in every city is a bookstore. I don't think that books will lose importance and relevance. I think they will continue to be a significant part of who we are as a society. But AI and consumer consumption, I think, are two trends that will play a pretty big part in what the future is.
Where did all the Chipotle go, bro?
Folks, you can check out more about what Adam's up to. It's not the Forbes book. There we go. Advantage Media. AdvantageMedia.com. And if you're interested in getting your name out there as a thought leader, if you've got a story to tell, you got to put it in the book. Honest to God, you got to do that in some way, shape, or form. I know Rhett's got his. I've written 5 of them so far. We've got in the wings right now. Check out what Adam is up to. Forbes book is something else. I mean, that's a hell of a platform. It really is. It's an extraordinary platform. So take advantage of it. Adam, lovely having you on the show. And mentioned just a little bit ago when Sergio was up, we'll have you on a couple of other platforms as well. Yeah, both Rhett and I have got places to put you.
Yes.
Well, Blaine, thank you. Rhett, go Tigers. Great to see you.
I'll let that stand.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Next time. Take care,
Bye,
Adam.
Bye-bye.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. It's an interesting industry, right? And where it's going to go, and how does an author break through the noise? I could have talked to him for a long time about how to,
that's why I want to have him back on.
Exactly.
Yeah, 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes is not enough. Yeah, we both have got longer form shows that we can actually take a deeper dive with stuff. So we'll make that happen. I think our next guest is here as well, Mark Elwood. There, I see the screen coming up. Based in Ontario, Canada. How you doing, Mark?
Excellent. Up from in the cold here up in Canada.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Now Pace Productivity is your organization, and you've got a groundbreaking paper that has come in terms of time use. And this is interesting because I remember I did a consulting thing years ago with Bethlehem Steel, and we did time motion studies. Frederick Taylor, a tip of the hat, but it was onerous. It pissed people off. It did all kinds of stuff that was really counterproductive. You've got a whole different take on how time is used, and I'm fascinated by this because time is as far as I can tell, the only non-renewable resource that we have in our lives. We can't go to the bank and get more. How it's invested or how it's spent, and we make a big difference between those two. How it's invested or how it's spent makes a big difference in what we have in our lives. Both as an organization, but more importantly as an individual. So, what's going on with this for you?
Well, those time and motion studies, that methodology is about 120 years old.
Exactly.
Flip that upside down and make it a lot more fun. So the methodology I use for those watching it, the time quarter device, it looks like this. I own about 400 of those. We lend them out to employees, and they use them to track their own time. Nobody's watching them. They track their own time. The device is just a little less complicated to use than a doorbell. So it's easy to use. And the reason we get a participation rate of 94% is that all the studies are anonymous. We never use employees' names in our reports, so everybody can be anonymous and use it and track their time accurately. So we get a lot of detailed, accurate data, and people like using the devices. It gives it instant feedback, so it's fun for them to use.
That sounds stingy with it, bro.
Yeah.
So what I did, I've been doing this for 34 years and collected a lot of data, and I go to occasional time use conferences and report on some of the results. I looked at men versus women, so I divided my database of 500,000 hours in half for all the women in one group and all the men in another group, and looked at differences. We've seen that there are differences at home. Women are more responsible for domestic chores like cooking and childcare and household cleaning and so on. So I thought, I wonder if that affects the workplace as well. So in the workplace, the conclusion I came to is that women are better at managing their time than men. This is knowledge worker jobs. And it's based on 4 major findings that I found through all my analyses.
Well, what are those? What are those for?
So the first is women work fewer hours than men. These are knowledge workers. So including breaks and lunch and so on, men are about 48 hours per week and women are only at 45 hours. Why is that? Well, guess who's got to go home and take care of those kids and pick them up from daycare and so on. The second finding, though, is quite profound. When you read time management books, they talk about working on your important activities. There's an important urgent matrix that people talk about. There's the Pareto principle, all kinds of stuff, but nobody's really measured this. So when I do my studies, I ask people, what are the most important things you need to do in your job before they start tracking their time? So with those responses, for instance, salespeople are selling, managers are managing, I mapped that to where they spend their time. Turns out the average in terms of their top priority activities is only 20%. The rest is administration and travel and meetings and so on. Well, women spend 22% of their time on their highest priority activities, and men are only at 18%. So women are doing a better job of spending their time on their highest priority activities. I'll go on. The third finding deals with durations. So we measure how long an activity takes. And typically, when people are tracking their time, it's around 15 minutes or so, or 18 minutes. Women are shorter than men. Women are about 16 minutes. Men are about 22 minutes. The average is 18. So they're getting things done faster. And on the last finding, the last major finding, we asked them about where they want to ideally spend their time. And it turns out, if you add all those up and add up the sum of the differences, women are about 3 hours closer to their ideal times per week than men are. So they're doing a better job of staying on track towards their highest priority activities.
That's interesting.
Yeah, those are the four. Yes.
Hey,
So number of hours worked, the time spent on high priority activities, the duration of events, and close to their ideal profile. Women are better on all those four measures, which leads me to conclude that they're better at managing their time overall.
Yeah, not surprising. How do you? You're a globally recognized expert at productivity. How do you talk about, or how can we claim? You talk about claiming an extra hour a day back for high priority tasks. How do we do that?
Well, you got to measure it first. So that's what I do is I measure it. And then all the time management books are pretty good, except they're based on common sense and so on. What I'm doing is measuring the non-value added activities. If 20% is where you want to be, and that can go up to about 30% amongst high performers, all right, what's that other 70, 80%? And the idea is to automate those activities or delegate them or, just get rid of them altogether. Those are administrative tasks. Those are poorly run meetings. And what I found is that I started this before most people had voicemail, before email, before smartphones. And despite all that technology, we're finding that people are still burdened by a high number of administrative tasks. Earlier, you were talking about AI. And so AI is a great tool, as are computers, as are spreadsheets. My sense, though, is that while it will bring all kinds of great benefits, it will also have unanticipated side effects and spin-offs and negative consequences and bad players and so on. So we need to use all those tools wisely, but find a way to reduce the amount of time we spend on administrative and non-value added tasks. Meetings, everyone talks about poorly run meetings. What I tell people is if you go to a meeting, you have the right and the responsibility to make a difference at that meeting. You can say, hey, let's start on time, or I didn't quite understand what we decided there, or let's get back on track, we're off topic. So everybody can make a difference there. Don't wait for the boss or the management to do it, but you can make a difference when you attend a meeting.
And that's important because I've only got so much time. And I've got an hourglass up above here. You can't see it, but I'll put it on my desk, pretty regularly just to watch the sand move through it's kind of like, the sands of time.
Yes.
Yeah. You started, and I'm going to just kind of close our segment here with this. You started, I think, with your paper route, looking for ways to actually grab back more time. So how do I streamline my paper route delivery so that I've actually got more time to go do other things or to have access to doing other things? And
And most people don't understand paper routes. You've seen them in movies, but I bought technology. I bought a wagon. I batched tasks together when I had to collect from customers. I figured out a way to do the most efficially. So even as a kid,
I mapped my route. I got a map out and I mapped it and I started, okay, if I can do these two and then I can circle back and do that one, I had a ball with it.
Yep. Or for instance, we had a weekend insert, a magazine that went inside the paper.
Yep.
You had to get at the depot, you had to get one inside the other. That's classic time and motion. And I was doing that faster than anybody else. Could probably still do it today. So that gave me my grounding in thinking about efficiency. It's all over the place. I look at lineups. Lineups are opportunities to make more revenue. And so those opportunities are all over. It's up to each individual to manage their time better and spend their time on their high priority tasks.
That's perfect. And that includes the quality of life that I have. And it's a function of where do I invest my time. Folks, you can find out more about Mark and what he's doing at getmoredone.com. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. And he's also got a book there that I think is kind of fascinating, The Poetic Path to Getting More Done. It's a collection of productivity-themed poems, which I think is just a hoot. I think that is really, really clever. So, Mark, thanks for being such a great guest. I love what you're up to. Rhett?
You again.
Parting words here to say to...
make the best of your time. Your time is worth it.
Okay. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark.
You bet.
Well, I think that brings us to a close on episode number 678.
It does. People have, I'm glad people have spent another 45 minutes with us.
Yeah, I am too. And yeah, selfishly speaking, I'm glad it was you and me. Don't tell Dave. Now, we're going to be together again on Saturday. And Gigi, if you've got that information that you can put up on the Sharon, there we go.
There we go.
Birthday bash. There we go. So join us at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, and it is going to be something else. You will not be disappointed.
Let me ask you a question, Blaine. You've been teaching the Napoleon Hill principles and the work that you did for a long time, and what was the impact that work had on you?
The hesitation here has to do with I don't know what aspects to actually talk about because it was so broad. I remember reading that book when I was, I think, 18 years old. It was the first time I picked it up and looked at it. And I remember reading it and kind of going, well, that's interesting, and just kind of setting it aside. But I came back to it later. I was probably about 20 and really read it that time. And by that time, I had some life experience. I mean, there was ways for me to begin to kind of position things.
Right.
And it was in that second reading that I went, whoa. And it was that whoa that literally got me on a different trajectory in my life. And it was one of those things where it was, I think it was the first Star Wars movie where there's a bridge between 2 points here between Hans and Leia have to step out and just step. Well, I wanted to do some stuff, but I'd always told myself, I don't have the resources, or whatever the story was in the back of my head. Part of what Napoleon Hill's the reading of Think and Grow Rich did for me was encourage me to just take a step, see what happens, take a step. And I did that. And as a matter of fact, I had this is kind of funny, but I had a full Technicolor Dolby Sound dream about going down paths that were not mine. I mean, they weren't well worn. They were. There was a gate that opened up, and I went here, and I remember the voice in my mind when I walked through that gate was, if you take that step, there is no turning back. I mean, it's vivid, and I had that dream at about 24. Right after I picked up the book and started reading it, you take that step, there's no turning back, and there hasn't. It was profound.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I struggle to answer that question. So sorry about putting you on the spot, but I think it's hard to, and I'm trying to get ready for Saturday, so that's why I asked you that question.
Yeah.
Because I think you're going to be asking questions, and I want to really think about the impact, because it has, and it's had such a massive impact on so many people's lives. And like you said earlier, what's exciting about all of this is that, you know, we can scale this and impact so many more lives than we could individually with our own brands and our own practices and our own work. And I think it's just that's what's so exciting about it, is that, you know, we can help so many more people with this program that we could ever do on our own. So that's why it's going to be fun having and being part of it, and working with you and Dave on this. And it's exciting. So
yeah, I'm very excited.
Join us Saturday, is in other words.
Join us Saturday. And Gigi, do you want to put that back up again as Brett and I just kind of closed off with takeaways for the day? So just in the spirit of, you know, keeping some sort of, you know, continuity with the office hours. What's your takeaway?
Well, I got so focused on the Napoleon Hill, I didn't even think about takeaways. But you're right. You know, I think I was fascinated by Sergio's work and how he can maybe demystify that journey from in conversion, right? From the customer to how do you convert that customer with your work. That's really interesting to me, because it is a problem that, like you were talking about with your mastermind, right? It's a mystery what's really converting, and how it, you know, what buttons are you pushing the right buttons. And then the other conversation about the future of publishing, and how Forbes and that publishing house can really help you tell your story. Just another fascinating episode of Office Hours. That's all.
Yeah,
I don't know that I have one takeaway, but yeah.
I love our guests today. They for me, you know, I don't know if you noticed it, but Sergio had a poster, a little plaque up on his wall behind him, and it said, "What's behind you doesn't matter."
Ooh.
And that. I was going to comment on that, but in the interest of time, I just let it pass. But I think, you know, for me, that is the takeaway. The future is not a function of what I've had happen. It's not even a function of what's going on today. And yeah, all three of our guests, in some way, shape, or form, I think, touched on the future. Yeah, the future is a possibility that I get to live from, but I also get to live into. And what's behind me doesn't matter. It's what's in front of me that gets, you know, that's where passion, actually begins to live. Yeah, what's exciting.
Ooh.
And, you know, with Mark, you know, talking about, you know, streamlining things, so I've got more time to invest in what matters. That's important. And what matters to me is Saturday. We're going to have a ball.
I can't wait.
Okay, buddy. I'll see you later. Thanks.
See you later.
Take care.